Shalom all, I'm still in Finland with no updates on returning to Israel. Yesterday, a handful of flights brought some Israelis home, and today a few more flights will be coming home, but it's still a fraction compared to the Israelis that are stuck abroad. All right, let's talk about what Israel's goals are and what the world's goals are. Israel has stated very clearly that it will not allow nuclear weapons in the hands of its enemies in the Middle East. The Begin Doctrine. It has done so in 1980 and 2007 and more. That is, keeping nuclear weapons out of the hands of its enemies. The stated goal of this operation, A Nation Rising Like a Lion, is to destroy Iran's nuclear infrastructure and keep it from getting a bomb, which according to Israeli intelligence was just a few weeks away. Beyond that, there are other goals. For example, reducing and removing Iran's ballistic missile threat to Israel, a threat that we saw used in April and October of 2023, and are seeing once again now, with attacks directly to civilian population centers. Today, this morning, there was a direct hit on the Soroka hospital in Beersheba. Now, just imagine if they had a nuclear bomb now, what they might do with it. Also, consider the criticism that Israel received when the Islamic Jihad's failed launch missile fell in the parking lot of a hospital in Gaza. How many people condemned Israel? I'm waiting for your condemnations of Iran. A second goal is reducing their ability or desire to support materialistically, politically, and with arms terrorist organizations that threaten, and more so, attack and murder Israelis, such as Hamas and the Hezbollah. A third goal is reducing Iran's influence in the Middle East. Up until now, Iran was the dominant power, with its competition, besides of course Israel, being Saudi Arabia and Turkey. And in the past, Egypt, Iraq, and to a degree Libya also vied for hegemony along with the Saudis. Most Israelis agree that the best way to achieve all these goals is with regime change. Since 1979, Iran has stated clearly that it will destroy Israel, the little Satan. For decades, Israel and the world have ignored these threats as hyperbole, meant for internal politics, and not as a credible threat. Although, to be fair, the conservative right in Israel has taken these threats more seriously, just like they've taken threats of our Arab neighbors in Gaza, Judea, and Samaria seriously. Their stated goal of killing Jews and wiping out Israel is not brushed aside by the right as disgruntled grumblings that can be changed with peace deals and money, but rather as stated intentions that must be responded to. Unlike the left that live in a dreamland of wishful desires, resulting in bloody peace deals that have caused thousands of murdered casualties and has led directly to October 7th. For example, the left's pressure and insistence on releasing over 1,000 terrorists, including Yahya Sinwar, for one kidnapped soldier. And now, too, we must continue the job of dismantling Hamas, because even today Hamas say that they want to do October 7th again. Abu Mazen in Ramallah has yet to condemn the horrific massacre of sleeping women and children in their homes on that Black Shabbat. Anyway, regime change. Is that a viable solution? Will it work? The last few decades have showed us that Western attempts at regime change are usually colossal blunders. One just has to look at Libya, Iraq, and Afghanistan to get an idea of such failures. And yet, where there is change, there is hope. For example, in Syria, as much as I'm not a fan of al-Jolani, considering he's a former leader of ISIS, an extreme radical jihadist who would love to see an Islamic caliphate take over the Middle East, Currently, in Syria, there is hope. Hope that the situation will stabilize after a decade of war with nearly 700,000 dead and 14 million refugees. Hope that Turkey and Israel will keep the situation under control. Hope that the minorities in Syria, the Druze, the Kurds, the Alawites, and so on, will have more representation than in Bashar al-Assad regime. Although I suppose the Alawites had the most representation in Bashar's regime because he was an Alawite, but we'll put that aside. Hope that Syria will join the Abraham Accords and make peace with Israel. So too, there is hope for Iran. Iran has some large minorities within it, such as Kurds, who are 10% of the population, Turkic nations, who are close to 20% of the population, as well as others, such as Azaris and Baluchis, and more. Additionally, there is the religious split between Shia and Sunni as well. In other words, Iran is not as unified as one might think, and the Farsi Shia Ayatollah regime spends much of its energy decaying and controlling the minorities. For regime change to happen, it must be done by the people in Iran. Israel can help by weakening the government and the security forces that put down these people, but it has to be done internally. Iraq and Afghanistan are examples where it was done externally. Syria is an example of it done internally. Now, what about the world? What does the world want? As always, most people want quiet and success. Likewise, most countries want power and money. So they don't like it when Israel rocks the boat. So they can't make deals with Iran and buy oil from Iran and so on. So most of the world just wants things to end so they can go back to making money. Consequently, they are in a dilemma to support Israel and end this fast through military means, or to, once again, living in dreamland, push for a diplomatic end so they can go back to making money. The U.S. also wants power and money, but sees that in order to gain that, it needs to have a stable Middle East, with oil flowing from the Gulf, and that Iran's influence in the area, like the Houthis or like the decades of Syrian unrest, has proven detrimental to this goal. Thus, when given such a lovely opportunity by Israel, it seems likely that Trump, being a businessman, will take advantage of it and put a more U.S.-friendly regime in Tehran, which will also help him with the geopolitical situation against China. So, in the end, Israel has chosen to believe what Iran has been saying for 46 years and to respond. The world has two choices: get on board or stand aside. If you have a different opinion on the benefits or challenges of regime changes in Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, or anywhere else, please comment below. Let's hear your thoughts on the matter. And as always, pray for the Israeli army, for the civilians, and for the leadership. And pray for the Iranian people. Shalom from Finland.